There is a moment that comes to every person, every single night, whether they notice it or not. It is the moment just before sleep takes you, when the world has gone quiet, when the phone is dark, when the demands of the day have finally released their grip on your mind. In that moment, you are floating in a space between worlds, between the conscious and the unconscious, between the day that has passed and the day that is coming. Most people let this moment slip away. They are already asleep before it arrives, or they are so exhausted that they simply collapse into unconsciousness like a stone sinking into water. They never realize what they are missing. They never understand that in this sliver of time, this quiet gap between waking and sleeping, a door opens. A door that very few people know exists, and even fewer know how to walk through. The 1%, the ones who seem to live a different kind of life, the ones who move through the world with a quiet confidence that most cannot understand. They know about this door. They have learned a trick, not a trick in the sense of deception, but a trick in the sense of a hidden knowledge, a secret key that unlocks something profound. And they use it every single night before they sleep. Tonight, we are going to talk about that trick. We are going to sit with it quietly, slowly, and uncover why it has been used by the wisest minds for thousands of years. And by the time you finish listening, you will understand something that most people go their entire lives without ever discovering. But you have to listen carefully. You have to listen with a part of you that already knows. Let us begin with a simple observation about the way most people live their lives. It is not a complicated observation, but it is one that, if you sit with it for a moment, might reveal something you have never noticed before. Have you paid attention, really paid attention, to how noisy everything has become? Not just the world outside, with its traffic and its televisions and its endless stream of notifications, but the world inside your own head. The constant chatter, the endless commentary, the voice that narrates everything, judges everything, worries about everything. From the moment you wake up, even before your eyes are fully open, there is a flood of information rushing at you. You reach for your phone, or perhaps it reaches for you, and suddenly you are drowning in the lives of others, in the news of the world, in the opinions of strangers. Notifications stack up like waves before a storm. Emails demand responses. Messages wait for acknowledgement. And even if you manage to resist the pull of the device, your own mind is ready and waiting to fill the silence with its own noise. Plans for the day, worries about the meeting, regrets about something said yesterday, anticipation of something that might happen tomorrow. It is a constant, unending stream, and you are standing in the middle of it every single day, trying to keep your head above water, trying to process, trying to respond, trying to hold on to some small piece of stillness, some tiny island of calm in the middle of the rushing flood. By the time evening comes, you are exhausted. But here is the thing that most people never realize. You are not exhausted because you have done so much. You may have accomplished very little of substance. You are exhausted because you have processed so much. Your mind has been running all day like an engine that never stops, like a machine with no off switch. It has been chewing on information, churning through worries, spinning out possibilities, replaying conversations, imagining disasters. And that constant mental activity, that endless processing, it drains you in ways that physical labor never could. And then, finally, you lie down. The day is done. The noise of the world begins to fade. The phone is put away. The lights are toned low. And you think, finally, rest. Finally, peace. But what happens? If you are like most people, something unexpected occurs. The noise inside, the noise you have been too busy to notice during the day, it does not fade with the world outside. It often gets louder. The thoughts you didn't have time to think, they all come rushing in like water through a broken dam. The worries you pushed aside during the busy hours, they return, stronger now, demanding attention. The conversations you wish you had handled differently, they play on repeat, a broken record in the theater of your mind. The fears about tomorrow, about the meeting, about the money, about the relationship, they gather in the darkness like shadows taking shape. Most people never notice that this is a problem. They have lived with this noise for so long. They have forgotten what silence sounds like. They think this constant churn is simply what it means to be human. They think the mind is supposed to be noisy, that it is supposed to churn and worry and plan and regret. They have never considered, not even for a moment, that there might be another way to exist. They have never considered that the mind, like a body of water, can be calm, that it can be still, that it can become so quiet, so smooth, so undisturbed, that it becomes a mirror that reflects something deeper, something true, something wise. This is the hidden problem, the problem that underlies almost every other problem in human life. It is not a lack of intelligence. You have plenty of intelligence. It is not a lack of effort. You work hard. It is something far more fundamental, far more invisible. It is a lack of stillness. It is the inability to find the quiet place within yourself where true wisdom lives. And because most people cannot find this place, because they do not even know it exists, they spend their entire lives reacting to the surface of things. They never dive deeper. They never discover what lies beneath. Think of the ocean for a moment. Really see it in your mind. On the surface, there are always waves. Some days the waves are small, gentle ripples that barely disturb the surface. Some days they are enormous, towering walls of water driven by fierce winds. Storms come and go. The surface is always moving, always changing, always reacting to the wind, to the moon, to the passing ships. It is never still. But if you dive down, if you go deep enough beneath the surface, you will find something remarkable, a place of absolute stillness. The water down there does not move. It does not react to the storms raging above. It is calm, peaceful, untouched. Fish may swim through it, but they do not disturb it. Why? Currents may flow, but they are slow and gentle. It is a place of profound quiet, of deep peace, of unchanging stability. Most people live their entire lives on the surface of the ocean. They are tossed about by every wave, every wind, every passing storm. Their moods rise and fall with the weather. Their peace is shattered by every squall. They react to everything, controlled by everything, because they have never learned to dive. They have never discovered that beneath all the chaos, beneath all the noise, beneath all the endless churn of thoughts and worries and fears, there is a place of perfect stillness within them. A place that is always there, always available, always waiting for them to descend into it. Napoleon Hill spent over 20 years of his life doing one thing. He studied the most successful people of his era. He sat at the feet of Andrew Carnegie, the steel magnate who built an empire from nothing. He interviewed Henry Ford, the man who saw a horseless carriage where others saw only a fantasy. He spoke with Thomas Edison, who pulled light out of darkness and sound out of silence. He wanted to know what made them different. What secret did they share? What invisible quality set them apart from the millions who struggled and failed? And one of the things he discovered, after all those years, after all those conversations, was that these men had access to something he called infinite intelligence. It was not their education. Many had very little formal schooling. It was not their lucky breaks. They created their own luck. It was something else entirely. They had learned to tap into a source of wisdom that was not limited by their own experience or their own knowledge. They had learned to dive beneath the waves. They had found the stillness within, and from that stillness, they drew insights that others could not access. But how? How do you access something you cannot see? How do you find a place you have never been? How do you dive when you have spent your whole life learning to swim on the surface? This is where the night becomes important. This is why the moment before sleep is sacred. Because in that moment, the world is finally quiet. The demands have stopped. The noise has faded. The phone is dark. The conversations are over. And you are standing at the edge of the deep water. You are floating in the space between waking and sleeping, between the conscious and the subconscious, between the day that has passed and the day that is coming. In that moment, you have a choice. You can let the thoughts carry you away. You can let the worries rush in. You can let the fears take hold. You can stay on the surface, tossed about by whatever waves happen to arise. Or you can take a breath. You can choose to dive. You can choose to let go of the thoughts, to release the worries, to sink down into the stillness that has been waiting for you all along. Most people never notice this choice. They are already asleep before they realize it was there. The noise carries them under, not into the depths of stillness, but into the shallows of unconsciousness. They miss the doorway. They miss the opportunity. They miss the moment when the 1% do their most important work. But the 1%, they notice. They have trained themselves to notice. They have learned to recognize this sacred space, this quiet gap between worlds. And they use this moment for something far more powerful than rest. They use it to dive. They use it to access the infinite intelligence that Napoleon Hill spoke of. They use it to plant the seeds of their future in the fertile soil of their own subconscious. This is where the journey begins. Not in the busyness of the day, but in the stillness of the night. Not in the noise, but in the silence. Not on the surface, but in the depths. So we have identified the hidden problem. It is the noise. It is the surface living. It is the inability to find the stillness within. But now we must ask a deeper question. A question that leads us directly into the heart of why most people never change, never grow, never transcend the limitations that bind them. Why is this so difficult to overcome? Why do most people stay on the surface, even when they sense, in their quietest moments, that there is something more? Why do they continue to be tossed about by every wave, every wind, every passing storm, when the stillness is right there, waiting for them, just beneath the surface? The answer lies in a trap, a mental trap that has been set for every human being who has ever lived. It is not a trap that was set by anyone in particular. It is not a conspiracy or plot. It is simply the way the human mind works when it is not understood. It is the trap of identification with your thoughts. Most people believe, with every fiber of their being, that they are their thoughts. They believe that the voice in their head, the one that chatters constantly from morning until night, the one that judges and worries and plans and regrets and criticizes and fears, they believe that voice is them. It is their identity. It is their self. So when that voice is noisy, they feel noisy. When that voice is anxious, they feel anxious. When that voice is fearful, they feel fearful. When that voice is angry, they feel angry. They have no distance from it, no space between themselves and the endless stream of mental activity. They are fused with it, like two pieces of metal welded together, impossible to separate. The thoughts come, and they are the thoughts. The feelings arise, and they are the feelings. There is no observer. There is no witness. There is only the constant, churning, exhausting flow of mental content. This is the trap, and it keeps people average because it keeps them reacting. It keeps them at the mercy of every passing thought, every fleeting emotion, every external circumstance. They are like a leaf in a storm, blown first in one direction, then another, with no control over where they land. They are like a cork on the ocean, rising and falling with every wave, believing that the wave is who they are. Napoleon Hill understood this trap, though he described it in different terms. He spoke often about the importance of the dominant thought. He said that whatever thought dominates your mind, whatever you think about most consistently, with the most feeling, will begin to take shape in your life. It will attract circumstances. It will influence decisions. It will shape relationships. It will determine outcomes. But here's the crucial point that most people miss. Most people never choose their dominant thought. Their dominant thought is chosen for them by the world, by the news, by the opinions of others, by their past experiences, by their childhood wounds, by their fears and anxieties. They drift through life, and whatever thought happens to be loudest at any given moment becomes, temporarily, the dominant thought. But it has no consistency, no power, no direction. It is like a rudderless ship, blown by whatever wind happens to be blowing. Think about the average person's mind at the end of the day. They have spent hours consuming content they did not choose, thinking thoughts they did not select, feeling feelings they did not intend. They have been acted upon by the world, rather than acting upon it. And when they finally lie down to sleep, what do they think about? Whatever floats to the surface. Whatever worry is loudest. Whatever regret is sharpest. Whatever fear is most pressing. They go to sleep at night with whatever thoughts happen to be floating by at the end of the day, like debris on a river. They have no filter, no selection, no intention. They simply collapse into bed and let their mind run wild, like a horse with no rider, galloping wherever it pleases, through fields of worry, through forests of regret, through swamps of fear. And then they wonder why they wake up feeling anxious, why they wake up already tired, why they wake up with the same problems, the same worries, the same limitations they had when they closed their eyes. The 1% do something entirely different. They understand something that most people never learn. They understand that the mind is a garden, and like any garden, it will grow something whether you tend it or not. It has no choice. That is its nature. The soil does not decide what grows. The soil simply receives whatever seeds fall upon it and gives them life. If you do not plant flowers, weeds will grow. It is inevitable. The wind brings weed seeds from everywhere. The birds drop them. The rain washes them in. If you are not intentionally planting what you want, nature will plant what it wants. And what nature plants, without your intervention, is usually weeds. Fear, doubt, scarcity, worry, regret, resentment, jealousy. These are the weeds that grow naturally in the untended mind. They require no effort. They require no attention. They simply appear, and if left alone, they take over the entire garden. This is why most people's minds are overgrown with weeds. They have never taken control of the planting. They have never become the gardener. They have left their garden untended for years, for decades, and now they look at it and wonder why it produces nothing but thorns. They wonder why they feel anxious. They wonder why they feel stuck. They wonder why life feels so hard. They do not realize that they are reaping what has been sown, not by them, but by the world. But here's the truth that changes everything. The truth that the 1% have discovered and use every single night. The moment before sleep is the most powerful time for tending the garden. It is the moment when the soil of the subconscious is most receptive, most open, most fertile. Why? Because in that moment, the conscious mind, the critical factor, the gatekeeper, is relaxing its grip. During the day, your conscious mind is like a guard at the gate of a great estate. It examines every thought, every suggestion, every idea that tries to enter. It is skeptical. It is analytical. It is protective. It asks questions. It raises objections. It demands proof. This is useful during the day, when you need to navigate the practical world. But as you drift towards sleep, that guard gets tired. He has been working all day. His eyes grow heavy. His head nods. He sits down against the gate. And eventually, he closes his eyes altogether. And the gate swings wide open. Whatever you think about in that moment, whatever you feel, whatever you imagine, whatever you hold in your mind as you cross the threshold from waking to sleeping, it walks right through that open gate. It enters the garden of your subconscious without being questioned, without being examined, without being challenged. And once it is inside, it begins to grow. It begins to take root. It begins to attract similar thoughts, similar feelings, similar energies. It begins to shape your beliefs. It begins to influence your actions. It becomes, over time, your dominant thought. This is the trap that keeps people average. They spend this sacred moment, this moment of open gates and fertile soil, planting weeds. They go over their worries. They replay their failures. They think about what they don't have. They rehearse their fears for tomorrow. They imagine worst-case scenarios. They feed the weeds. And then they wonder why their life feels like a garden full of thorns. The trap is that they don't realize they are planting. They think they are just thinking. They think they are just unwinding. They think they are just letting their mind do what minds do. They have no idea that every thought is a seed. Every thought, especially the ones you hold in the quiet moments when the gate is open, is going into the ground and will eventually bear fruit. It must. That is the law. The garden has no choice. Listen carefully to this part. This is where everything begins to shift. This is where the trap loses its power. The trick that the 1% use is not complicated. It is not difficult. It is simple. But simplicity is not the same as easiness. Simple things require practice. They require awareness. They require you to wake up from the trance of automatic thinking and become the gardener of your own mind. They require you to notice, in that quiet moment before sleep, that you have a choice. You can let the weeds grow, or you can plant flowers. You can let the fees run wild, or you can plant thoughts of peace. You can rehearse your failures, or you can visualize your success. The gate is open. The soil is ready. The question is not whether something will be planted. Something always is. The question is whether you will be the one doing the planting, or whether you will leave it to the wind. Now we arrive at the turning point, the moment in our quiet conversation where the fog begins to lift and a shape emerges from the mist. We have seen the hidden problem, the noise that keeps us on the surface, unable to dive into the stillness within. We have seen the mental trap, the identification with our thoughts that leaves us planting weeds in the garden of our subconscious while the gate stands open. And if you have followed this far, if you have really listened with the part of you that understands without needing to analyze, you may be feeling something stir within you. A recognition, perhaps, a sense that these words are touching something you have always known but never quite articulated. And with that recognition comes a question, a quiet but urgent question. How do I get out? How do I stop being a leaf on the current? How do I become the gardener instead of the garden? How do I use this sacred moment before sleep for something more powerful than rest? These are the right questions. They are the questions that have been asked by seekers and sages for thousands of years. And they lead us directly to a principle that Napoleon Hill uncovered after decades of studying the greatest minds of his generation. A principle so powerful, so transformative, that he called it the cornerstone of all personal achievement. He called it the mastermind. But we must be careful here. We must slow down. We must approach this principle with the reverence it deserves, because the world has taken this term, as it takes all powerful things, and it has stretched it and flattened it and turned it into something small, something manageable, something that fits neatly into the boxes of modern thinking. People hear mastermind today and they think of a networking group. They think of a room full of entrepreneurs in suits, trading business cards and sharing marketing tips over cups of coffee. They think it is about connections and leads and joint ventures and synergy in the corporate sense. And while there is nothing wrong with any of that, it is like looking at the vast Pacific Ocean and calling it a puddle. It misses the depth entirely. It misses the invisible force that makes the mastermind truly transformative. It misses the magic. The true mastermind, as Napoleon Hill described it with painstaking precision after hundreds of interviews with the most successful people who ever lived, is the coordination of knowledge and effort in a spirit of harmony between two or more people for the attainment of a definite purpose. That is the definition. That is the framework. But the secret, the part that cannot be seen with physical eyes, the part that cannot be measured by any instrument, is what happens when those minds come together in genuine harmony. Hill believed, and he demonstrated through countless examples drawn from real lives, that when two minds meet in a spirit of perfect harmony, something miraculous occurs. A third, invisible, intangible force is created. It is like a third mind, a psychic presence, a bridge that connects them to something far greater than themselves. He called this invisible force the third mind, and he insisted that it was as real as the two physical minds that created it. Think about that slowly. Let it sink into your understanding. Do not rush past it. It is not just two people talking. It is not just collaboration in the ordinary sense. It is the creation of a new entity. An entity that has access to wisdom neither person could reach alone. An entity that can solve problems that stump both individuals. An entity that can generate ideas that neither would have conceived in isolation. An entity that taps directly into what Hill called infinite intelligence. That universal field of wisdom that Solomon accessed when he asked for a listening heart. This is the principle that changes everything, because it breaks you out of the illusion of separateness. And make no mistake, separateness is an illusion. It is the great lie that keeps humanity small, keeps individuals struggling, keeps genius from expressing itself fully. The trap, the mental trap we spoke of in the previous section, tells you that you are alone. It whispers in your ear constantly, in 1,000 different ways, that you have to figure it all out by yourself. That your struggles are yours alone. That your burden is yours alone to carry. that you must compete because there is only so much to go around, that other people are either obstacles or tools, not partners in creation. This is the voice of the trap, and it is a lie. The mastermind principle reveals a different truth entirely. It reveals that the greatest power available to a human being is not found in solitude, no matter how wise that solitude might be. It is found in harmonious alliance. It reveals that you were never meant to do this alone, that the deepest insights, the most profound breakthroughs, the most lasting achievements almost always emerge from the space between minds that have learned to resonate together. Look at the natural world for a moment, because nature never lies. Nature is the visible expression of invisible laws. A single drop of water is weak. It is vulnerable. It evaporates in the sun and disappears into the dust. It has no power to speak of. A drop of water cannot carve a canyon. It cannot move a mountain. It cannot generate electricity or float a ship. But when that same drop joins with other drops in a flowing river, something changes. It becomes part of a force that has the power to carve canyons through solid rock over thousands of years. It can move mountains, grain by grain, over eons. It can nourish entire civilizations along its banks. And when that river reaches the ocean, when that drop joins with the vastness of the sea, it becomes part of something so powerful it holds the weight of ships and moves with the pull of the moon itself. It becomes part of the tides that shape the very coastline of the world. The drop does not lose itself in the ocean. It does not disappear. It finds itself. It becomes what it was always meant to be, but could never become alone. Most people live their entire lives as isolated drops. They are terrified of joining, terrified of trusting, terrified of harmonizing. They have been burned before. They have been disappointed. They have been betrayed. So they build walls. They isolate. They try to push their rock up the hill alone, and they wonder why they are so exhausted. They wonder why life feels so heavy. They wonder why they cannot seem to make the progress they dream of. They have never learned the secret of joining a river. They have never experienced the effortless power that comes from aligning their mind with another mind in perfect harmony. They have never felt the third mind emerge and carry them to places they could never reach on their own. Solomon lived this principle thousands of years before Napoleon Hill gave it a name. Consider the Great Temple in Jerusalem, one of the most magnificent structures the ancient world had ever seen. Solomon did not build it with his own two hands. He did not quarry the massive stones. He did not carve the intricate woodwork. He did not smelt the gold or hammer the silver or weave the curtains. What did he do? He did something far more difficult, far more powerful. He created a vision so clear, so compelling, so filled with purpose and meaning, that it acted like a magnet. It drew to him the finest minds, the most skilled craftsmen, the most dedicated workers in the entire kingdom. It inspired them. It united them. It gave them a common purpose that transcended their individual concerns. He provided the dominant thought, the definite purpose, the burning desire. And then he held that space with such unwavering focus, such absolute certainty, that thousands of people organized themselves around it. Their minds, working in harmony with his, and in harmony with a higher intelligence that none of them could name, accomplished what one man, no matter how wise, could never have accomplished alone. This is the mastermind in action. This is the principle that changes everything. It is not about using people. It is about joining with them. It is not about manipulating others for your own ends. It is about creating something together that none of you could create apart. But it requires something. It requires harmony. It requires a letting go of the ego, at least for a time. It requires a listening heart. Because the moment your ego gets in the way, the moment you need to be right, the moment you compete instead of cooperate, the moment you try to control or manipulate or use the other person as a means to your end, that invisible third mind vanishes. The bridge collapses, and you are just two drops of water again, sitting next to each other, but separate, alone, weak, struggling. This is where everything changes. When you stop trying to do it all alone. When you stop believing the lie of separateness. When you humble yourself enough to seek out your river, to find your ocean, to join your mind with another in a spirit of genuine, selfless harmony. That is the moment you tap into a power that has built kingdoms and moved nations. That is the moment you stop being a leaf on the current and become the current itself. And this is why the moment before sleep is so powerful. Because in that quiet darkness, you are not alone. You are joining your mind with the greatest mind of all. You are harmonizing with infinite intelligence itself. The gate is open. The third mind is waiting. The question is whether you will show up to the meeting. Now we must look more closely at what actually happens in this sacred moment before sleep. We have spoken of the hidden problem, the noise that keeps us on the surface. We have explored the mental trap, the identification with thoughts that leaves us planting weeds while the gate stands open. We have uncovered the Napoleon Hill principle that changes everything, the mastermind, the power of harmonious alliance with something greater than ourselves. But now we come to the practical question, the question that matters most. What do the 1% actually do in those quiet minutes before sleep? How do they think differently? What is happening inside their minds while the rest of the world simply collapses into unconsciousness? The answer is both simple and profound, and it has been known by the wise for thousands of years, long before Napoleon Hill gave it language that the modern world could understand. They think in pictures. They think in feelings. They do not just repeat words to themselves like a school child memorizing a lesson, hoping that repetition alone will somehow transform their lives. Words have power, yes, but words without feeling are like seeds without water. They may be planted, but they will not grow. They will lie dormant in the soil, waiting for the rain that never comes. The 1% understand this. They know that the subconscious mind does not respond primarily to words. It responds to images. It responds to emotions. It responds to the vivid, sensory experience of a reality that has not yet manifested in the physical world. So they create that experience. Deliberately, intentionally, every single night. They close their eyes, and they do not let their mind wander where it pleases. They do not rehearse the worries of the day. They do not replay conversations that went wrong. They do not scroll through mental images of everything they lack. Instead, they take control. They become the director of their own inner cinema. They see themselves already living the life they want, not as a distant possibility, not as a someday dream, but as a present reality. They see it with such clarity that it becomes almost tangible. They see the house they want to live in, not as a photograph from a magazine, but as a place they are walking through, feeling the carpet under their feet, seeing the light through the windows, smelling the air. They see the work they want to do, not as a job title, but as a series of moments, of actions, of interactions that feel real and satisfying. They see the relationships they want to have, not as abstract concepts, but as living connections, feeling the warmth of presence, the ease of understanding, the joy of genuine communion. And then they go further. They do not stop at seeing. They move into feeling. They generate the emotions that would accompany that reality if it were already here. The gratitude, the satisfaction, the peace, the joy, the quiet confidence of a life fully lived. They feel these emotions in their bodies. They let them wash over them. They amaze themselves in that emotional state so completely that for a few minutes, it becomes their actual experience. This is not daydreaming. This is not wishful thinking. This is the deliberate, intentional use of a natural law, a law that Napoleon Hill spent his life trying to help people understand. He called it the law of imagining with such intensity that the subconscious mind cannot distinguish between the imagination and the reality. This is the secret that lies at the heart of all great achievement. The subconscious mind, that vast and powerful force within you, does not know the difference between something vividly imagined and something actually experienced. It responds to both in exactly the same way. Think about that for a moment. Let it settle into your understanding. If you can create a scene in your mind that feels real, if you can generate the emotions that would accompany that scene, if you can hold that experience with sufficient intensity and repetition, your subconscious accepts it as truth. It says, this is real. This is what is happening. This is what we are experiencing. And once it accepts something as truth, it begins to work tirelessly to make it manifest in your outer life. It begins to guide your actions, shape your decisions, influence your perceptions, attract circumstances, bring people across your path, all in service of making that inner reality an outer one. This is not magic. It is not supernatural. It is simply the way the human mind works. It is the mechanism by which every great achievement in human history has been accomplished. Every building, every invention, every work of art, every successful enterprise, every loving relationship began as a picture in someone's mind. Someone saw it first. Someone felt it first. Someone held it in their imagination with such clarity and feeling that it became inevitable. The average person thinks about what they don't want. They think about their problems. They think about their lacks. They think about their fears. And then they wonder why their life is full of problems and lacks and fears. They do not realize that they are using the same law, but in reverse. They are imagining with intensity, but they are imagining disaster. They are feeling with power, but they are feeling fear. They are planting seeds, but they are planting weeds. The 1% have learned to harness this law deliberately. They do not focus on the lack. They do not focus on what is missing. They do not focus on their fears or their doubts or their past failures. They focus on the end result. They see it. They feel it. They live it for a few minutes in the theater of their own mind. And then they release it. They let it go. They drift into sleep, not clutching at the image, not grasping or straining, but resting in the quiet confidence that the work has been done. The seeds have been planted. The garden will grow. This is how great achievers think differently. They understand something that most people never grasp. They understand that the outer world is a reflection of the inner world. It is a mirror, nothing more. If you want to change what you see in the mirror, you do not attack the mirror. You do not get angry at the reflection. You do not try to scrub the image with chemicals or cover it with paint. You simply change the face that is being reflected. Most people spend their entire lives trying to change the mirror. They work tirelessly to manipulate circumstances, to control other people, to acquire things, to achieve status, all in the hope that the reflection will finally look the way they want it to. But it never works, because the mirror is innocent. It simply shows what is. If you want a different reflection, you must become a different person on the inside. The 1% understand this at a cellular level. They know that if they want to see abundance in their outer world, they must first feel abundant in their inner world. If they want to see loving relationships, they must first feel love in their own heart. If they want to see success, they must first experience success in their imagination. The outer is always a reflection of the inner. There are no exceptions. This is law, and they use the quiet power of the night to make these inner changes. They do not wait for the world to give them a reason to feel good. They generate the feeling first, and the world follows. They do not wait for circumstances to change before they feel peaceful. They find the peace within, and circumstances reorganize themselves around that peace. Most people wake up in the morning and look at their life and wish it were different. They react to what they see. They feel discouraged by the gap between where they are and where they want to be. They feel overwhelmed by the distance. They feel hopeless about the journey. But the 1% have already lived their desired life in the quiet hours. They have already visited the promised land in their imagination. They have already felt the feelings of success. They have already experienced the joy of achievement. They have already tasted the peace of fulfillment. So when they open their eyes in the morning, they are not starting from zero. They are not beginning a long journey toward a distant destination. They are moving toward a reality they have already inhabited. They are simply catching up in the physical world to where they have already been in the spiritual world. Listen carefully to this part. This is not about escaping reality. It is about creating it. It is about using the most powerful tool you have, your imagination, in cooperation with the most powerful force in the universe, your subconscious mind, to shape your destiny. The night is not just for rest. It is for creation. It is for visiting the future and bringing back the blueprint. It is for planting seeds that will grow while you sleep. And the 1% have learned to create while the world sleeps. They have discovered that the darkness is not empty. It is full of potential. It is full of possibility. It is full of the raw material of new realities. waiting for someone with enough imagination and enough feeling to give them form. And so we arrive at the end of our journey together. The fire has burned low. The house is still. The world outside has gone to sleep. And you are here, in this moment, with these words. We have walked a long path through the darkness, through the noise that keeps us on the surface, through the trap that keeps us identified with our thoughts, through the principle of the mastermind that connects us to something greater, through the way great achievers think in pictures and feelings before sleep. And now we are left with a question. The only question that truly matters. The question that every person must answer for themselves, in the quiet of their own heart, with no one else watching. What now? What do you do with all of this? How do you take these ancient truths, these timeless principles, and weave them into the fabric of your ordinary days? How do you move from knowing to being, from understanding to living, from hearing these words to becoming the person they describe? Because knowing and being are two different things. You can know the path perfectly. You can memorize every twist and turn, every landmark, every warning sign. But if you do not walk it, you are still lost. You are still standing at the edge of the forest, holding a map you have never used, pointing at it, explaining it, but never taking a single step into the trees. The awakening moment is not when you hear the truth. The awakening moment is not when you understand the truth intellectually, when you can explain it to someone else, when you nod along with words that resonate. The awakening moment is something far more personal, far more profound. It is when you see the truth in your own life. When you look at your reflection, at the circumstances that have been causing you pain, at the patterns that have been repeating for years, at the results that never seem to change no matter how hard you try. And you no longer blame the mirror. You no longer point your finger at the world and demand that it change. You no longer wait for other people to be different. You no longer hope that circumstances will rearrange themselves to suit you. You look at it all with new eyes, with a listening heart, and you say, quietly, softly, without accusation or self-blame, this is my creation. This is my dominant thought made visible. This is the garden I have been planting, whether I knew it or not. And if I created this, I can create something else. This is the moment everything shifts. It is not a loud moment. It does not come with trumpets or flashing lights or dramatic fanfare. It comes in the stillness, like the sun rising over a quiet field. One moment it is dark, and you cannot see your hand in front of your face. You cannot find the path. You cannot tell which way to go. And then, gradually, almost imperceptibly, the light begins to creep over the horizon. The shapes begin to emerge from the shadows. The path becomes visible. The obstacles become clear. And you realize, with a quiet shock, that it was there all along. You just could not see it in the darkness. Napoleon Hill wrote something that has stayed with me for many years. It is a sentence that has echoed in the minds of everyone who has truly studied his work. He said that strength and growth come only through continuous effort and struggle. At first glance, this sounds exhausting. It sounds like a lifetime of hard work, of pushing against resistance, of fighting battles that never end. It sounds like the very thing most people are trying to escape. But if you sit with it a little longer, if you let it settle into a deeper place, you realize that he was not talking about struggling against the world. He was not talking about fighting other people or fighting circumstances or fighting the natural flow of life. He was talking about the struggle within, the daily, quiet, often invisible battle to hold onto your dominant thought. The effort it takes, in the face of 1,000 distractions and 1,000 fears and 1,000 voices telling you to give up, to keep your mind tuned to wisdom, to keep your heart listening, to keep planting flowers when the wind is full of weed seeds. This is the real work. It is not about changing jobs or moving to a new city or finding a new relationship or acquiring more things. Those are external changes, and they will only last as long as your internal state supports them. If you change your job but not your dominant thought, you will recreate the same problems in the new job. If you move to a new city but not your dominant thought, you will find the same struggles in the new place. If you find a new relationship but not your dominant thought, you will eventually recreate the same dynamics with a new person. The real work is the inner work. The work of watching your thoughts like a shepherd watches his flock, gently guiding them back when they wander. The work of noticing when the old fears creep back in, when the old doubts start whispering, when the old patterns try to reassert themselves. And in that moment, instead of feeding them with your attention, instead of believing them, instead of letting them take root, you simply let them pass. You do not fight them. Fighting them gives them power. You do not argue with them. Arguing engages them. You simply watch them drift by like clouds in the sky, like leaves on a stream, and you return your attention, gently, patiently, persistently, to the truth you have chosen, to the images you have planted, to the feelings you have cultivated, to the person you are becoming. Solomon, the wisest king who ever lived, the man who asked for a listening heart and received it beyond measure, wrote a book at the end of his long and remarkable life. It is a strange book, a difficult book, a book that has puzzled scholars and theologians for thousands of years. It is called Ecclesiastes. In this book, he looks back at everything he built, everything he achieved, everything he possessed. He had wealth beyond measure, gold and silver like stones in the street, so much that it ceased to be counted. He had women beyond count, 700 wives and 300 concubines, representing every nation and culture of the known world. He had palaces and gardens and pools and vineyards that were the envy of kings. He had power that stretched from the Euphrates River to the border of Egypt, influence that reached across continents. He had wisdom that surpassed all the wise men of the East, insight that drew visitors from the ends of the earth. And he looked at all of it, this vast accumulation of everything a human being could possibly want, and he said 7 words that have echoed through the ages: vanity of vanities. All is vanity. It is all meaningless. It is all vapor. It is all smoke. It is all chasing the wind. This sounds, on the surface, like the words of a man who has given up, a man who has sunk into despair, a man who has lost hope. And for 2,000 years, people have read these words and felt a chill, wondering if the wisest man who ever lived concluded that life itself is meaningless. But it is not that. It is something far more profound, far more liberating. It is the cry of a man who has finally, after a lifetime of accumulation and achievement, seen through the illusion. He was not saying that life has no meaning. He was saying that the things you chase outside of yourself, the things you accumulate, the status you seek, the approval you crave, the possessions you acquire, the achievements you stack like trophies on a shelf, they have no lasting meaning. They are smoke. They are vapor. They disappear the moment you grasp them. You can spend your whole life building a kingdom of sand, and the tide will wash it away. You can spend your whole life climbing a ladder, only to find it was leaning against the wrong wall. You can accumulate everything the world has to offer and still lie awake at night feeling empty. The only thing that remains, the only thing that is real, the only thing you take with you when you leave this world, is the state of your own being, the wisdom in your own heart, the love you have become, the peace you have cultivated, the person you have grown into through all the struggles and all the joys and all the ordinary moments in between. The awakening moment is realizing that you have been chasing smoke. You have been running after shadows, believing they were solid. You have been building your house on sand, wondering why it keeps collapsing in every storm. You have been looking outside for something that can only be found within. And the secret that Solomon offers, the secret that Napoleon Hill spent his entire life translating for the modern world, is this: the kingdom you are seeking is not made of sand. It is not made of gold. It is not made of anything the world can give or take away. It is made of spirit. It is made of thought. It is made of the very fabric of your own consciousness. And you do not have to build it. You do not have to construct it from scratch, piece by piece, through effort and striving. You just have to uncover it. It is already there, buried deep within you, beneath the debris of 1,000 fears and 1,000 false beliefs and 1,000 voices that told you who you were supposed to be. The listening heart is not something you acquire. It is not a skill you learn from a course or a book. It is something you uncover. It is the original you, the you that existed before the world told you who to be. The you that knew, as a child, that there was something more. The you that has been waiting, patiently, quietly, all these years for you to come home. You remove the rocks of ego, one by one, day by day. You clear the weeds of resentment, patiently, persistently, without judgment. You sweep away the dust of doubt, the accumulation of a lifetime of small surrenders and quiet compromises. And there it is, a spring of living water, flowing quietly, patiently, eternally, waiting for you to drink. This is the quiet awakening. This is the moment that changes everything without changing anything on the outside. You are still you. You still live in the same house, wake up in the same bed, face the same challenges, interact with the same people. But you are different. You see differently. You hear differently. You move through the world with a new center of gravity, a new anchor, a new source of stability that nothing outside can shake. So tonight, as you lie in bed, and the world grows quiet around you, and the demands of the day finally release their grip, do not ask for more things. Do not ask for a different life. Do not ask for the circumstances to change. Ask, as Solomon did, for a listening heart. Ask to see the mirror clearly, without flinching, without blame, without judgment. Ask to be shown your dominant thought, the one that has been running beneath the surface, the one that has been building your life while you weren't looking. And then, in the silence, just listen. Do not judge what you hear. Do not try to fix it immediately. Do not rush to change it. Do not become frustrated if what you find is not what you hoped. Just listen. Let it rise. Let it show itself. Let it have its say. Because in that listening, you are doing something more powerful than any action you could take in the daylight. You are tuning your radio to a higher frequency. You are connecting to the mastermind. You are harmonizing with infinite intelligence. You are planting the seeds of a new reality in the most fertile soil there is, the soil of your own subconscious, while the gate stands open and the God sleeps. The secret wisdom of King Solomon is not a secret to be kept. It is not a treasure to be hidden away and guarded. It is a truth to be lived. It is a path to be walked. It is the knowledge that the door you have been searching for your whole life, the door you have been knocking on, the door you have been trying to force open with your will and your effort and your striving and your worry, it is not out there. It has never been out there. It is within you, and it has always been open. It has always been waiting. It has always been inviting you, quietly, patiently, night after night, to walk through. Listen carefully. Can you hear it? In the silence between these words, in the space between your thoughts, in the quiet darkness that surrounds you right now? Can you hear the creak of the hinges, the gentle invitation, the voice that has been calling you home since the beginning? It is time to stop building huts at the edge of the forest. It is time to stop chasing smoke. It is time to stop trying to change the mirror. It is time to come home to the only place you have ever truly belonged. It is time to walk through the door. Sleep well tonight. And remember, in the quiet darkness, you are not just resting. You are creating. You are planting. You are becoming. The seeds you sow in this sacred moment will grow while you sleep. The garden is waiting. The gate is open. And the gardener is finally awake.